Hello. Oh, I'm loud. All right. Thank you so much for the kind applause. Today, I have a clicker. Today, I wanted to talk to you about observability. But before that, has anybody here heard of SolarWinds before? Okay, good. So folks are aware of SolarWinds. SolarWinds is kind of a big company, so if you haven't heard of it, you could be forgiven. But we have a lot of organizations globally, a lot of customers, a lot of partners, and a pretty big community online, which serves to support each other, both in the use of and in terms of building upon our products. So exciting group there. We recognize, like most of you, that businesses are going through increasingly fast digital transformation. And what that means is whether you're modernizing your applications, modernizing your infrastructure, modernizing the way that you deliver value to your customers, both internally and externally, you're having to deal with scale like you've never dealt with before. You're having to deal with technology variability. You're having to deal with all kinds of pushes from your own internal software development, whether it's on services or applications, and you have to be able to understand what's going on at any given time, whether you're DevOps, whether you're a developer, whether you're someone who's in an SRE role or a reliability engineer, right? And what that means is getting on top of the complexity of modern application architecture, more the distributed nature and the dynamic nature of modern applications and services, whether it means evolving your infrastructure or even helping to provide value back to developers as they are building and maintaining software. This necessitates looking at your applications in a different way. What we call observability means pulling together end-to-end, full-stack understanding of what's going on in your environments from an application and service perspective. So this allows you to, and I'll talk about that technology, but this allows you to do things like increase the time to value in your organization, increase service levels, resolve issues faster, understand what things you have to get after now and what versus what things you have to get after later, right? And overall, what that does is increases our productivity and our ability to support agile development in our businesses. So what is that for us? That's our new SolarWinds observability product, which we've announced in October of this year. So brand new. That brand new product is built in the cloud. So it's built in AWS, and it runs in AWS. And what we're able to do is pull together digital experience monitoring, log management, and distributed tracing, network and infrastructure visibility, and database all in one solution. That means that all the different pieces that come together in order to deliver that value that your application or service is delivering to your end users is something that we see and we can provide to you in a single pane of glass. People ask me, well, there are various solutions that claim to do all these things. And one of the things that I tell them is, okay, think about how much goes into managing and maintaining those solutions. Think about how the learning curve on those solutions, thinking about even deploying those solutions, right? And then think about when you think of SolarWinds as a brand, right? You think of things like simplicity, easy to use, easy to get up and running, easy to understand, easy to get value from, right? When we talk about end-to-end, right, we're talking about modern applications. We're not talking about the applications that are that you bought off the shelf that you're running in-house in your data center. We're talking about when you built an application. We're talking about that thing that that you as a developer or the developers that you work with are pushing new code to every 2 weeks, right? We're talking about ensuring the SLOs and the stability of those products, right? And those things rely on infrastructure, cloud infrastructure that you get from Amazon, databases, various database types that are running in different parts of your application to understand what's going on in those databases, right? You can't just say a database has, this database server has high RAM or high CPU anymore. You have to be able to understand what's going on within the database, right? And we provide that depth. We provide that breadth. When we look at what's queries are nested inside that query, what queries are blocking, where you might have to optimize indexes, we look at what's underlying the problem and we show it to you, right? What I'm talking about is really end-to-end, right? Connecting that digital experience monitor probe, that alert, that problem that happens with your real user monitoring or your transaction monitoring, all the way through all these pieces for you, right? This new approach is you're not pulling the information together. This new approach is you're not having to throw something over the fence to another team. This new approach is you've got everything you want, everything you need to make sure that you hit those SLOs and those SLAs in the same space. When we talk about alerting, one of the things that comes up over and over with my DevOps friends is we talk about how many alerts go off in a traditional system and how often there are many parts of the system that are in bad state. Frankly, the inability and the lack of time to go through and address every single possible thing that's wrong in a system. Instead, what we talk about is how to get at the things that are most urgent. What are the things that are impacting the actual usage of your services, the actual usage of your application, right? And making sure that we float that to the top. And the way we do that is by adding AI ML on top of this integrated backend, right? So being able to pull together information in the system itself allows us to build ML and algorithms that work on top of that information. We don't build ML algorithms to pull that information together. That happens at ingest. We build ML algorithms to understand the patterns in your data. What is really anomalous, right? What is really a problem? What is tied to an end user experience issue, right? So let me give you an example. You might have a cluster of containers, and one of those containers might be pegged at 100% CPU. And in a traditional monitoring approach, that might be a problem, right? Pegged at 100%, above 80%, some sort of issue there, right? But if that's not affecting your experience, if that's not impacting the way that someone uses the service or the application, who cares, right? I'll get to it later. I need to get at the things that are actually impacting the application, impacting the end user. And that ML AI that we run on top of the platform allows us to surface those alerts that are most important to the top, okay? We map your application so you don't have to. This is a pretty APM, sort of vanilla APM use case, but we can add the layers like what's actually happening in the database, what's actually happening in digital experience monitoring to that and tie that all together directly, right? And another note on AI ops, we've come up with something that we think is kind of special. We call this thing health score, right? This is a derived metric. You can't like ask an application for its health score, ask a virtual firewall for its health score, right? Or or any sort of device metric that you might pull. What we do is we've been in the space of monitoring systems, networking, applications for about 20 years, right? And you saw we've done a lot of acquisitions in that space. We have a lot of IP in these spaces, right? And so what we've done is we've looked at what are the critical metrics to understand the health of a system, right? And what happens when those metrics, I mentioned anomaly detection, right? What happens when those metrics or that data looks anomalous, right? So we could say an application or a service has a health score of X, right? Red, green, blue, 100, 50, 90, right? We could also say a device has a health score. We can also say a set of devices have a health score. So an IT use case would be, I have a set of load balancers, and if more than 3 out of my 6 load balancers are down, I need to get woken up, right? Like understanding the health score of that group of systems versus just one, okay? And on an application, that might be significantly more complex, the nth degree more complex. You might have containers running in your Kubernetes cluster, which runs in AWS, which has a dependency on a MySQL database, and perhaps has a dependency on another type of database, and perhaps has a dependency on some VMs that are running somewhere, right? Understanding that application and the health score of the application gives the person who owns the application a sense for, is this application deteriorating, broken, problematic, right? At a glance, which we think is pretty cool. Additionally, we said at the beginning, a number of folks know SolarWinds as a brand, right? What you probably know from SolarWinds is what's in blue on this slide, right? What's in blue on this slide is our hybrid cloud observability software. This is downloaded bits and bytes that you install and you run yourself, right? What I've been talking about in this presentation is our reimagined, is our new systems, our new platform that we built entirely natively on top of AWS in the last 18 months, which is in the green. But you might be one of those organizations that has an investment in the blue, right? And so what we've done is we've made it so that you can take that data in the blue system and see all that data and all natively in the green system, meaning your on-prem investment is something where you can actually send that data natively up into the SaaS system and combine that natively with all that other data that I was talking about, the digital experience monitoring data, the application trace data. Without you doing work, we do the work, which I think is pretty cool. To wrap up in the last couple minutes here, right, we believe you need to observe everything. And what that means is for your application or service, we're not talking about just APM. We're not talking about just transaction monitoring. We're not talking about just infrastructure monitoring, right? We're talking about understanding all of the different layers. We're talking about getting in deep into the database, but not forcing you to be a database admin. We're talking about understanding whether the actual experience that the transaction check, the real user monitoring check, the uptime check that you're running actually impacts the downstream, right? And understanding what to address to fix that first. We're talking about pulling all that data together for you end to end so that you don't have to, right? And we're talking about doing it from anywhere. The SolarWinds platform is the underlying platform technology that we built out in AWS that we run these systems on. It again has digital user experience monitoring, network and infrastructure monitoring, application performance monitoring, security compliance monitoring, database performance monitoring, native cloud service monitoring. We are open telemetry native, which means that when you want to deploy OpenTelemetry, or if you've deployed OpenTelemetry, or you have Prometheus sitting somewhere, right? We integrate directly with that. We don't replace it with proprietary agents. We don't do one more agent on your box, right? You can download our agents. We do have agents. What are those? Those are packages of OpenTelemetry. So if you want to do OpenTelemetry managed through our agent management system, you can do that, right? But we certainly don't force you. Anything OpenTelemetry comes into our systems. If you've heard of things like Pingdom, Loggly, Papertrail, right? That's our IP. That's foundational IP that goes into this system, right? If you've heard of things like the network performance monitor that SolarWinds built, right? That we've been or virtual or our vMan software or our SAM software, right? That's IP that we bring into this, right? So again, full stack, end-to-end, real depth and breadth of observability. The real one-stop shop for you to easily understand what's happening in your application or your service so that you can quickly get that SLO or that SLA target back in shape, right? Without having to put in a bunch of work or get a bunch of professional services or try to figure out how to do this for hours and days at a time, right? Just turn the key and start going. So really appreciate the time today. My name is Josh Sagerberg. I'm the Vice President of Product for SolarWinds Observability. I'll be at the booth over there, along with a number of folks from my team, eager to talk to you about any questions that you might have. The booth is all the way in that corner, and it's next to the HashiCorp one. So if you can see the big HashiCorp thing, you can. It's the booth is 3111. So cool. Thank you so much.